Hello, personal finance students. This is Mrs. Lamphere. I wanted to go over a few things with you regarding the semester project for this course. The end of the semester is coming up to be March 15th, so this project is due then. If you are able to get it submitted early, I can try my hardest to get to it and get it graded and back to you. That way you can make some changes and resubmit it if you would like some more points. But can't guarantee that just because I get a lot of stuff turned in at the end of the semester, but the sooner you get this turned in, the better. So let's go over a few things. The semester project, because I did change some instructions from what your text says to do. So let's go over these first. First of all, the semester project is a chance for you to demonstrate your understanding of the personal finance areas that we've been talking about. The developing of a sound financial life, understanding credit and debt, spending money, banking and insurance, investing money, those are all the different units that we looked at. So you're going to really project your understanding of each of these units. Now you have several different options of doing this. You could create a brochure. If you do a brochure, you must have 3 columns of information, front and back. The fewer graphics, the better. This is not my most recommended option for creating your project, just because a lot of students think that if they use size 18 font and fill up their columns, that's enough information, and it's not. Guys, we talked about a lot of stuff this course, so you need to really demonstrate what you know, and brochures really don't leave enough room for you to provide all that information. Other than a brochure, you could create a slideshow or a PowerPoint using PowerPoint, Prezi, Movie Maker, as student asked, and that's totally fine. This is probably what most students do, is create a PowerPoint of some sort, and that always works out great. Or you could do the written report option. I have a lot of students do this too, where they just write a paper with all of their information. But no matter what option you choose, they must include all parts of this project, which we will go over now. Part 1 covers everything you learned in the unit called Developing a Sound Financial Life. In this Part 1, you need to pick your future career. Preferably use the one that you've been discussing throughout the course. You've already done the research on it. You already know what training you'll need and the salary that you'll make. So you might as well go ahead and use that career. That's fine. You can use the Bureau of Labor and Statistics Career and Education website to describe the job, talk about the necessary training, the schooling, your expected salary, etc. You'll use the information that you find to create a budget. You will use the blank budget worksheet, and I'll show you how to find that. You'll need to alter the expenses to match your needs, and points will be deducted if you don't include some basic expenses. So this is going to be a lot like the budget assignment that we did for Kathleen. Okay, only you're doing this for yourself now. So you need to figure out your monthly expenses that you're going to have, that we're talking in the future when you first get your new job. So you'll find your yearly salary and then divide it down to your monthly expenses. Take out usually 25 to 30% of taxes to find out what your actual take-home pay will be. You'll need to complete a W-4 form. And in your instructions, they tell you to fill out a W-2 form, but I'm not requiring that because you will never fill one out. That's usually what your employers give you. So I want to see you at least be able to fill out a W-4 form, and I'll show you where to find that. And Part 2 comes from our Understanding Credit unit. You need to tell me about what a good credit score is. How do you plan on achieving that credit score? What does a good credit score do for you? Why do we even have them? What items might you finance, or finance to take out a loan, means to take out a loan for, with the career that you're working. Might you take out a loan for a car? Will you get a mortgage on a house? Will you buy a boat? Whichever you go with, you need to include those monthly payments into your budget. You do not need to research finance offers, but explain what they are. In your directions in the text, it wants you to research actual finance offers. I don't want you to do that. Just because a lot of times in the past we've had students, and it asks for students to put in some real personal information, and I don't want you guys to get into all of that. So just talk about what finance offers are and what you hope to find for a house, car, boat, whatever you want to purchase. You need to tell me how credit cards work. What's the proper management of a credit card? What are some average interest rates? How do interest rates affect our payments? Tell me everything you know, guys. This is your chance to really spill your guts on everything you've learned in this unit. And if you feel like you haven't learned much, you might want to go back into the unit and reread a few things. Part 3 covers the spending money unit. You will pick 10 expenses that you will have each month, which should be listed in your budget. You're going to explain whether they are fixed and flexible. Don't just tell me that they're fixed or flexible. Tell me why they are considered fixed or flexible or fixed variable expenses. Explain 3 items in your budget that can be categorized as short-term debt, and then 2 items that could be long-term debt. And then explain what that means. What's the difference between short and long-term debt? What are some of your financial goals? How do you plan to reach them? What do you plan to save each month to reach these financial goals? And that should also be reflected in your budget. You should have 1, 2, 3 different savings accounts that you're using to reach all your different financial goals. Part 4 talks about banking and insurance. You're going to pick 2 types of accounts you plan to put your money into, and then explain your choice. This will include savings account, checking account, CDs, money markets. Even if you don't choose all of those, you'll see on the checklist that you have to tell me something about each of those. So what would be the best way to kind of separate your money and get it into different accounts, and why do we use those different accounts? Then you're going to discuss 3 types of insurance you feel you will need while working in your chosen career. You're going to explain your choices, so whether you choose health insurance, car insurance, life insurance, homeowners insurance, you need to tell me what insurance you're choosing and then the types of policies you're choosing within those insurance. So with health insurance, we talked about HMOs and PPOs and fee-for-service and high deductibles. With life insurance, we talked about term, whole, variable, universal. So tell me what insurance plans you're going to go with and why you're going with them. Also, whether or not you're considered high or low risk. Maybe if you have some medical issues, you might be a higher risk for health insurance. If you have a bad driving record, that might make you higher risk for car insurance. So explain to me what your insurance situation is going to be like. Investing money, you're going to choose, for part 5, choose 2 types of investments you would put your money towards. We've talked about lots of different investments: stocks, mutual funds, bonds. How much money will you put towards these investments? This should also be reflected in your budget. How much you plan to earn with those investments? Tell me about the rule of 72 and how that can come into play. How will you prepare for retirement? Do you plan to have a 401k plan or a 403b? That's where your career choice really comes into play. Will you open an additional IRA? What type? Why are you opening this account? Again, even if you don't want to, you still have to tell me about an IRA and what the difference is between these retirement plans. How much do you plan to put towards retirement each month? This should also be reflected in your budget. And then how do you plan to use Social Security? We've talked before in the Class Connect. You can go back and view that video, how we should use Social Security, and why we shouldn't rely solely on Social Security. Some important notes. You do not need to include the 3 additional vocab words for each section, and I'll show you in the instructions in your text where it says to do that. I'm tossing that part out. Okay, I feel like this is enough information that you guys need to provide, so you don't need to do additional research for me. Use the links in the instructions, and I'll show you where to find these for the budget worksheet, the W4 that you'll fill out, and the checklist. And the checklist is how I base the grade on your project, so make sure you're getting the checklist completed. Your submission should include at least 3 attachments. You should include your budget, your W4 form, and the overall project, so the brochure, PowerPoint paper, whatever it is you're submitting. If you have questions, please ask, okay? Don't hesitate to ask me any of your questions. The project is due March 15th. Again, like I said, early submission could lead to early feedback from me, but again, that depends on how much time I have to get that graded and back to you, because these are big projects. It also takes me a long time to grade each of these. And also wanted to throw in, you guys, I know this sounds like a lot, but if you think about it and you've been doing all the assignments, you've done all this work already. You've done your insurance project, so you've covered a lot of information on the different types of insurance. You should have done your retirement project by now, so you've covered information on retirement. You've covered, you did projects on different investments, okay? You did assignments covering different bank accounts that you plan to use. So go back and use that information from those assignments. I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel. So you have that information there, go use it, but you cannot just kind of paste all of your projects together and think that that's going to work, okay? You kind of have to make it flow, put it all together and make it work. The project is a big deal. Okay? This is why you have the last 2 weeks really to work on this. There is no final exam, so I expect a lot of effort to be put into this final project. Some final notes that I wanted to go over for this last week. There is no Class Connect next week because us teachers are proctoring the TCAP exams. And you can contact me in the evening if you need some help by phone call, K-mail, whatever. I'll try my best to get back to you in the evenings. This week you should also be completing the retirement project and the Unit 5 exam. Use the study guides that I made available for you. And let me show you real quick where to find the information on the semester project. And just to point out, you can really just go off of what I just gave you in the PowerPoint. Here's where you'll find the links in the instructions. So the very first page of the instructions, you'll find the checklist. Okay, there's a link to a PDF file that looks like this. And this is the checklist that I'll be grading your assignment off of. So as you go through and create your assignment, make sure you're including all of these different concepts. And you can't just put the word in there and think that that covers the concept, okay? You have to explain all these different things. So there's the checklist on the first page. Here's the link to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Career and Education for you to find out the training that your career will need, your salary, the schooling, etc. Here's the link to the budget worksheet that you will use to create your monthly budget. Looks a lot like the one we used for Kathleen. So you don't need to explain, you might want to use some of these to explain like your fixed and flexible expenses if you choose to type them in these boxes or within your project. Either way is fine. Your W-4 form that I expect you to fill out, there's the link to the IRS website and then a link to the W-4 form that you will fill out as a PDF, save to your computer, and then upload into the Dropbox for this final project. Understanding credit, this is the part where I changed a lot. I don't want you to research finance options, but I do want you to tell me about a credit score, what credit score you hope to have, and some finance, some items that you plan on financing, like the car, the house, the boat, whatever you want, motorcycle maybe. Other than that, the instructions are pretty similar. This is something else that I threw out. At the end of each part, it says for you to pick 3 insurance terms that you want to learn more about. I threw that part out, so don't worry about adding on 3 terms to each section. So again, they have the checklist for you there at the end. You'll submit all 3 attachments, your budget, your W-4, and your project, all together into the Dropbox for the semester project. So I hope that helps with you. You get started with your project. Please, again, let me know if you have any questions, and good luck.